So the final episodes of My Demon are here. I want to talk about episode 15 and 16 and my overall thoughts on this series. Let's go. Hi, I'm Monique. I'm the host of Off by Purple Heart podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas, C-dramas, BTS, and whatever else I want to talk about. My Demon episode 15 was extremely emotional. I'll be honest, I wasn't very happy with episode 14, and even in episode 13 a little bit towards the end, I wasn't really as fervent with my love of My Demon as I've been for the past other episodes. I noticed like a dip in my interest in towards the end of episode 13, and 14 didn't help, even though it was extremely well acted. But I will admit, episode 15 completely gut punched me. I think all the actors really brought their A game, and in the final moments of Do-hee's life in particular, and what Gu-won did, ultimately the ultimate sacrifice, and basically goblined himself and him slowly disintegrating, was some of the best work I've seen from either actor throughout the entire series. And I think they've both been bringing it. I really enjoyed it, and I am vindicated for Kang, because I have been like a huge cheerleader for him for a while now. And I've seen the talks about him and his acting, and I just feel like this series really did highlight just how much he's got going on. But those final moments were really breathtaking, and I actually teared up. It's very rare for me nowadays to cry at shows, especially for K-dramas. You know, I just enjoy the good feels. I gasp along with everybody else for like the traumatic stuff, but I was not expecting the gut punch of actually tearing up a bit. But the performances were so strong, and the ultimate sacrifice that Gu-won made, and essentially praying to God, like he was on his last mend, and that little mini prayer he did, and then the sacrifice, and even to see the God within the show actually tear up. I was just spellbounded, man. I really enjoyed Ep 15. As dark as it was, and it's truly in the story arc structure was the dark soul of the night. Like it was really a gut punch, and I just felt like it like reinvigorated me. I was like, wow, this is why I enjoyed so much of this series. This is why I enjoyed the performances so much. Like everything in episode 15 was kind of like everything that I truly enjoyed about the show, and where I thought it did a lot better than, like, for example, Destined with You. Even though I had a lot of good positive thoughts, especially towards the earlier parts of Destined with You, but ultimately I was kind of disappointed in that show. But man, My Demon really came out and mollywopped everyone in episode 15. I'm kind of shooketh by it, to be honest, because I watched them both back to back versus just watching one and then waiting for the other. I just watched them both simultaneously. And I was still kind of reeling from episode 15. So then going into episode 16 and everything resolved itself was fine and dandy, but I was still kind of left reeling from the emotional onslaught. But the performances were really brought to that level. And even going into Ep 16, Do-hee went through an absolute hell. I actually do appreciate that the show actually got her into the POV of Wolsum, and by her wearing the necklace by proxy, which she was able to visit like her past life self memories. I think that was really well done. And when Do-hee rises from that dream state and sees the truth for everything about the entirety of their relationship and everything that they fought for, and that even back then, in that past life, he was still saving her in a way, and she was ready to walk away from it all, end it all, just wanted to end her life, and he just wouldn't let that happen. And then they fall in love from there, and at the end of her demise, she even said, I had no regrets. I thought that was really beautiful, and her waking up and just the state of panic and the disbelief and all the realizations coming crashing down. It was just great work. I really, really enjoyed it. Then we got a lot of resolutions. I will say they did a hell of a job with Star Jin. I could not stand that side character, and I was pretty open about that in my previous podcast episodes about how much I didn't like her, and how her and the second male lead, who I have yet still to learn his name, even though the show's done now. But Star Jin in particular, I was so aggravated by her, but they did one hell of a job of a redemption arc for her. Episode 16, it just made everything come back to home, like how everything came back in a circle, and that she became the savior to that little girl. I swear, I thought the tears were done because I teared up at 15. That made me cry. That honestly made me cry. Like, even my eyes are kind of watering when I'm kind of recalling back, because I thought that was such a beautiful symmetry for everything. You know, she's finally let go of that obsessiveness with Guwon. She's now going to move ahead in her life. I know the show kind of was going to have her move on and move out of Korea, but now she has this renewed sense of mission, and I believe she will stay in that little girl's life and make sure that she's okay. But to confront her abusive father, say, get your hand off of her, point that umbrella right in his neck, I was like, you go, girl. And the absolute innocence and sweetness of that little girl asking if you're an angel, honestly. And then having the flashbacks of Guwon when he first approached her, and having that interplay, but in this instance, she says, yes, angels are real, and yes, miracles can happen. The talk about the emotional manipulation, but I completely bought into it, hook, line, and sinker, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Despite all my grievances about that character, I think that was the absolute perfect way to wrap up her storyline. So they did her a great service. And everyone else's storylines wrapped up pretty nicely as well. So I can't fairly judge Ep 16 because I watched them both back to back, and episode 15 did a number on me. Like, I did not expect it. But wow, I will say the acting performances were just through the roof. Both leads should be really proud of themselves. Like, they brought it home, man. The acting wise, some of the writing, I'll be honest, as I said earlier, you know, I was kind of irritated with Ep 13-ish. 14 definitely I didn't really like that much. So I lost a little bit of steam towards the end of the show, but I will say as a whole, My Demon was an enjoyable ride. And I am once again feeling vindicated for Song Kang. I keep talking about him, and it's only because I am a fan of him, and I really enjoy his darker roles, and I want him to also be in rom-coms or romance stories, because I think he excels in there as well. And I like that this was a big mishmash of both of those genres together. But I think everybody brought it. Like, I was pleasantly I was pleasantly surprised by just how good the acting got. Like, 15 really blew my mind. The last 10 minutes, wow. I can't get over it. I think Ep 15 is probably one of my favorites from the entire series, even though it was so dark. It's just when the acting's good and everything is kind of brought to a head, it was just at its best, in my opinion. And overall, I hope that the show did well in Korea. I knew it was very popular internationally, but I've heard like mixed reports about Korea. But I hope overall this will be regarded favorably going forward. I, for the most part, enjoyed my ride, and I'm satisfied. Even the little quibbles that I do have, I just don't have the energy to get into it. I'm still emotionally reeling from everything, so I'm like, okay, I just kind of need to de-stress a little bit. Probably gonna watch something a little bit more lighter stakes, or something a little bit more lighter hearted. Even though the ending was super saccharine and super sweet, I think the runtime was a little long considering with Ep 16. I think they resolved everything really nicely, but I do enjoy that the ending shot in Ep 16 was her calling out for Guan, and he's right there, which is a great callback to that promise that he ultimately made to her, is that, you know, you call out, you reach out for me, and I will answer. And I think that was great. Maybe they could have shaved off about 15-20 minutes or so and still have wrapped up everything nicely, but I do like that that was the closing shot. So that is my final podcast for My Demon. All 16 episodes are out now. I would say if you have not gotten to My Demon yet and somehow you stumble across this podcast, give it a shot. I think it's a great ride. I think the performances are really great. I knew from my first impressions that I was going to stick with the show for the most part because I liked what I saw. I was a little unsure about the chemistry at first. But then once I got into eps 2 and 3, I was locked in, and the show pretty much kept me engaged majority of the way. And despite my kind of mellow feelings about 13-14, I was overall happy with the show. Maybe it was a thing where the writers could have cut a little bit of the fat away a little bit. But overall, I am satisfied with the ending. So I think it resolved itself nicely, but maybe you feel differently. If you do and you want to air it out and you're watching this via YouTube, by all means, comment section, let me know what were your thoughts about My Demon as a whole and My Demon Ep 16. If you're listening to this via Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I really love you and appreciate you as well. And I hope you'll stay tuned to this podcast because I'll be reviewing a lot more K-dramas and C-dramas in this new year. I'm currently watching Marry My Husband, and my podcast episode for that should be going up shortly, probably before this one, to be honest, because I was filming my reaction earlier in the week, and yeah, that was something. That was something. Anyways, thank you so much for watching or listening. I really appreciate you. To the next one. Bye.